Hello, Blaine Gray here, Plastering Beginner. Today we're going to talk about whether plastering is a good trade to get into. Now I know that there's a lot of people follow this channel are either DIYs, they want to aim to do their own house up, but they're doing it because they actually want to start becoming a plasterer. But either way, we're going to dissect whether this is actually a good investment, whether it's a good trade to get into. We're going to see if there's any money to be made, if it's worth it in the long run, and seeing if there's any other options out there. So let's just get straight into it. I've been a plasterer now for coming to 14 years. A YouTube channel is all about helping people plastering from themselves. So I only teach how to plaster, but I've never actually discussed whether it's a good trade to actually walk into. Like I said, I fell into this. This wasn't actually my original plan. I love my job now, I have to say that, and I really enjoy going to work every day, but that's just my personal preference. What we've got to discover is whether it's actually worth it. So let's get the good bits out of the way first. First off, out the bat, there is a lot of money to be made in plastering. You can make good wage and you can make good money doing this job. So for example, I don't work anything for minimum £200 a day. I'll show you a link at the end of the video and exactly what money I make as a plasterer. But that is my personal income. And now that is not a typically high income. That is just, for me, it sounds like an average price for a decent plasterer, that is. So there is good money to be made. The other thing is you don't necessarily need 1,000 certificates to be doing it. For example, if you're an electrician or a plumber, you cannot even start working unless really with gas safe, and if you're going to be working on a fuse board, you shouldn't be working without the papers. So the other thing is you can actually start learning to plaster in your own home. You could start picking a wall. You could plaster your own house, get some experience, and then decide to start working for friends and family. And you can really get into the trade and pick it up off your own feet just by doing it. So that in itself is a massive pro. I do advise getting some training behind you and actually learning the trade properly before you actually start going out for work. But that is, that's how it is. I personally fell into trade, learned through other people, and then that way eventually became a plasterer through learning through others. So there is good money to be made. It's an easy trade to get into. And there is also the fact that as a whole, I generally find it quite a good trade to be in. They're the pros to becoming a plasterer, and that's the good side of becoming a plasterer. But there is a toll. So for example, there is very good money to be made in plastering, but the downside is it's your body that will take the hit. It will take its toll on your body through RSI, which is repetitive strain injury. The constant sameness of the day job, it will take its toll. And not only that, plastering is actually quite a tough trade. Especially if you're doing rendering day in, day out, or if you're doing solid plastering, or even if you're plasterboarding day in, day out, that it can have its effect. For example, I had bad wrist problems. I've been seeing a physio. That seems to have gone away, but now it's shot up to my elbow. So, it is just travelling up at the moment. So I've only been in it 14 years. I get lots of comments from some of the old boys who just say stay away from the trade because their back's knackered, or, the shoulders are done. They've had operations, they've had numerous injuries which has just set them back. So the reason that is because to make good money in plastering, generally you have to have a bigger output. It's the trade, it is relative to what you put in. If you plaster a lot in a day, you'll make a lot of money. But the real truth of it is, behind all that is it is tough work. It's hard on the body. You're mixing, you're troweling, you're carrying a lot of weight with one hand, you're lifting around, you're doing ceilings. To make good money, you have to put a lot of meterage in, which therefore means it will, if you're doing it day in, day out, you will start to feel it. In all honesty, any trade you walk into, you're going to have effects of RSI. Most plumbers, especially old school boys, their knees are knackered, their hips are knackered. Carpentry, that constant whacking of the hammer, that is hard work as well. That can take its toll. Bricklaying, again, I mentioned before, at the moment, that's one of the mostly sought after trades. People are screaming for bricklayers, and they can be making up to £500 a day because there's not many of them around. So, but whatever you do, if you're going into a physical trade, it is going to take its toll on its body anyway. So if that's something that puts you off, then maybe becoming a tradesman in general is something that shouldn't be for you, because it is a very tough game to be into, because it is just manual labor. You're fixing, repairing homes with your own body, which will determine how your body lasts. But it doesn't mean just because you're a plasterer you are going to end up knackered. There are things around it, and I'm going to talk about that in the future. But generally, if you're looking at trades, that is always going to be the thing. So back to plastering now. In terms of relativity, like I said, there is good money to be made, but here's the crux of it. You don't necessarily always need to put 1,000 meters in to make good money. I'm a domestic plasterer mainly, and I must admit, I pride myself in doing a good job. Now, unfortunately, the reality of it is quite a tough trade to master. And here's where it kind of swings around again. If you get very good, if you get a good finish, if you are renowned and if you get a good reputation behind you, then you can start putting your prices up and people will pay for a good plasterer. And that's because it's a very vain trade. When you're plastering a wall, the customers look at it and think, wow, that's amazing, it looks great. And at the end of the day, it's like a decorator. You will pay for a decent plasterer as you would pay for a decent decorator. So the good thing is, if you focus on honing in on your trade, getting good at it and making sure that you're getting perfect results, then essentially what I'm saying here is you can charge more. So the caveat is, if you get very good at the trade, you can charge more and not necessarily smash your meterage out. You can just be renowned for being a good plasterer, do a steady day, which I've heard hundreds of comments on my YouTube channel of what plasterers do. Get the room done, but in their own time, and still get the same price as some of the site workers. So that is, again, another pro. Just because you're a plasterer doesn't mean your body has to take its toll. So what I'm coming around to is the fact that I personally love the trade. And this is what I think you should be deciding whether you want to be a plasterer or not, is try it first. Give it a go in your room. If you're thinking about it, try it, work with someone, shadow with them, get to know the trade. But the big thing is discover whether you like it or not. If you are planning to be a plasterer, I think you need to decide whether you like it. I originally wanted to be a plumber in between of being plasterer, didn't know what I wanted to do. Worked with a plumber for a few months, hated it. I never want to do plumbing ever again. I hate plumbing now. I know they make good money. That to me doesn't matter. But eventually I learned to really enjoy plastering, and that's what I think is the main thing. If the plastering trade is something you enjoy, then get into it. Get behind it, master it, learn how to get a perfect finish. If you can do that and just get the walls as best as you can, and I mean real good finish, then you'll do very well in the trade. And don't focus on just necessarily being the fastest plasterer, focus on being the best is in terms of the finish, then you will do well. So what I recommend is for anyone who's looking to get in the trade, just find out first whether you like it. That for me is the biggest word of advice I can give. And like I said, I love it. I really enjoy plastering. It's variety. I do rendering, plastering, internal plastering, solid plastering. You know, there is a lot of variety to it. It's not necessarily just about skimming, even though nowadays it is kind of, but there is a lot of variety to it. So the crux of it is, plastering is a very good trade. You can make good money from it. Your body will take its toll, unfortunately. And I'm just being serious with you here and realistic. Your body will take a hit, unfortunately. So be prepared to take that on board, you know, and be prepared to realise that that is a thing. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it won't, because it will. But if you enjoy the trade, if you are up for trying something new and you want to make good money, then you can do it if you get your head down, learn to master it, and then get behind it and give it a go. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn exactly how much money I make in plastering, so in this video about here, I show an example where I made £500 a day, and I also showed the ugly side where I lost £400 in one day. So if you want to learn how much money you can exactly make as a plasterer and take it further from there, then click the video there and hit the like button here. So if you like this video, like and subscribe. Thanks a lot, playing great. I'll see you in the next one.